Welcome to NASCAST 500, the only NASCAR podcast that loves their pets, but doesn't go to the media and tell them that their animal died. I'm Elizabeth Moxley. I'm joined by
Mathew.
Yeah, man.
Hey guys.
Hey, what's up?
Well, we just got back from the Chili Bowl, the 20th annual Chili Bowl in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Unfortunately, Adam and I don't get MAV TV, but Phil does. Phil, take it away.
All right, well, basically the big story was going to be, could the Swindell family add to their record 9 wins at the Chili Bowl? There's also, of course, NASCAR Sprint Cup Rookie of the Year, Kyle Larson trying to win the Chili Bowl, along with a lot of really talented drivers, over 300 drivers. I think 326 was the final number. Kenny Wallace, NASCAR Nationwide Series winner, an announcer for Fix Sports, Sarah Fisher, a real woman race car driver, real representative for women. First time in a race car since before she had kids. First time she's been in a midget car, a dirt midget car, in many years. The list goes on in terms of talented drivers that were there. Dave Darland, who's the People's Champ. He's the all-time winner in USAC Sprint Car competition. Tony Stewart was down there actually working the track, working and making sure the track was in good condition. There was a lot of big names there, but in the end, it broke earlier today, that the now Chili Bowl champion, Rico Abreu, who dominated the A feature, will be driving an H. Scott, Justin Marks, K&N East car this year. So first time in his career he'll be on the pavement, and he'll be doing it with H. Scott Motorsports after a dominant performance defending midget, iPower champion. So that was a great race. I mean, unfortunately for me, I had a bad feeling it was going to happen this way, and I've been tired trying to get over this cold, or whatever you want to call it. Abreu dominated, but I unfortunately saw most of the racing except the main event, which pissed me off. But I read it on social media, and it was a great win for him, and he beat Brian Clausen, who's a former NASCAR development driver with Ganassi, ironically enough, which basically that's the line he's going. He's Kyle Larson's BFF, so they come from the same part of the country in California, and so he's going to go and run NASCAR now. Abe wins, Swindell second, Damian Gardner, the Demon, he finished third. Tanner Thorson fourth, Swindell fifth. Kyle Larson and him got into some business after the race. Former World of Outlaw Sprint Car champion Darren Pittman finished sixth. Andrew Deal finished eighth. Zach Daum and Clausen, who started second in the main event, finished 10th. It was really difficult to get into that main event. Only 2 leaders in the race, Clausen and Abreu, in the 55-lap feature. NASCAR Nationwide driver JJ made the main event. Chad Boat, who drives Nationwide for his dad, made the main event. Christopher Bell, who's Kyle Busch development driver, just got into a late model last year and won. He finished 23rd. He's one of the best midget drivers, but obviously something happened to him. So, I mean, the racing was great. The action was good. It's real racing. It's grassroots racing. I definitely enjoyed it. Having a professional broadcaster like Dave Despain calling it lines. It was mostly about the Swindex, Golden Larson, Clausen, defending champion, and Rico. And Rico carried it, and he did a really good job. And I had been talking to somebody that I know in the business who's into the what do you call grassroots racing, like World of Outlaws and USAC, and we were talking, and it's like, so when is he going to go run pavement? And she said, oh, he's signed to drive a midget for Keith Coons, who is his owner there, and his dad, and sprint cars. And then the next day, he signs a deal with H. Scott Motorsports and Justin Marks to drive in the Can-Am East. We'll see what he does. Hopefully he's given the time to really figure out how to drive a car on pavement, because he can drive the wheels off of anything. He's buddies with Tony Stewart. He has a ton of respect for him. And for Tony to have respect, you know that to have his respect, you know you have to be really good. So Rico did his deal. He has won a lot of races over the last few years. Not shocked that he won. It was great to see the fans were chanting his name. It was a very popular win for the Chili Bowl, and that started off our 2015 big race season.
Okay, Keith Olbermann is in the news. A couple days ago, Keith Olbermann was talking about the Kurt Busch Patricia Driscoll incident. I'm going to play you a clip of what he said. Come on.
His ex-girlfriend, who he says is a trained assassin, who he claims once returned to their hotel, took off her trench coat and revealed a beautiful, striking evening gown with a vivid, blood-stain covered design, complete with other human matter stuck to it, shoes by Christian Louboutin, furs by Dicker and Dicker of Beverly Hills. Race car driver is Kurt Busch. The ex-girlfriend and/or Mata Hari is Patricia Driscoll. And in court this week, she says that last September he smashed her head against the wall of a motorhome 3 times. He says that, quote, I knew she could take me down at any moment because she is a badass. And that she told him she had killed drug lords with long-range sniper tactics and in hand-to-hand combat, like with knives and stuff, and also poison. Furs by Dicker and Dicker of Beverly Hills. Now, before we go any further, 4 details to consider here. 1, I don't know protocol on this, but it seems awfully sketchy to not only boast to your boyfriend that you've assassinated people, but to come home one day, come home from work, with one of said people all over your evening gown. It just does not seem very professional to me. 2, Kurt Busch's attorney in this case is none other than Rusty Harden. He's the lawyer who made Roger Clemens and Adrian Peterson what they are today. Guys who never have to fear assassination because they did such a thorough job of it on themselves. But 3, while she says all the details that Kurt Busch has testified to in court is just stuff from a fictional movie script she's been dabbling with for 8 years, when asked for a photo for a NASCAR Wives and Girlfriends website, this is the one she provided. Ha ha! Boy, did I miss you, hon. No, I mean I missed you with my bullets. And 4, bat guano crazy as all of this seems, this Patricia Driscoll not only says her dad worked for U.S. Customs and her grandfather was a spy during World War II, but it is a provable fact that she owns a company called Frontline Defense Systems. And her company profile says she has spent the majority of her career in the narcotics and intelligence world. It insists she has worked a lot overseas and for the British and fought human trafficking and was against American border security and has developed strong relationships in the House, Senate, and White House, her strongest allies, although that's not how you spell allies, right? Right now what she's got there is allies, as in something belonging to Ally McBeal. These strongest allies are the Armed Services Committee, Appropriations, Ways and Means, the Homeland Security Committee, and the Intelligence Committee. And of course there's the video. What video? Video about her.
I'm not a regular mom. I don't drive a
Man.
I have 2 jobs on top of being his mom.
I'm gonna go get my gun.
My name is Patricia Driscoll. I've worked and supported the military for many, many years. I am one of the few women who own and run a defense company. I like to shoot as much as I like to dance and have sex. I have a reputation for not being the nicest person in the world, and I've earned it.
If you cross her, she grab you by the twist him and tear him right off.
Yeah, okay.
I would have died for sure here.
All right.
But
I think we
definitely
can
for
cut it
our
off
children.
at that point.
Their contract
All right.
officer sucks.
I think we don't have to hear the whole thing. We can kind of. I watched that video out of curiosity because after days and days of hearing about it and the fact that Kurt Busch going and calling somebody psycho is like the pot calling the kettle black. But I mean, this chick is psycho, and minus the fact that he bought her bolt-ons, even though I'm pretty sure she bought the bolt-ons for herself. Either way, maybe the silicone went to her head, she went and lost it really big, or I don't know what the explanation is, but in Kurt Busch's case, his manhood doesn't look so good, but he probably is telling the truth here. And in her case, any type of slandering she was trying to do to make Kurt look like a complete scumbag, nothing that she could do any more damage than he's done to himself. The points that Olbermann made there weren't all that incendiary, though Olbermann is known due to his leanings to make offensive slants towards NASCAR fans. Obviously, with us, we're more open thinking than the average fan. But
I will defend. I've been a fan of Keith since his Countdown days at MSNBC and current, and I support. I've read his books. I follow him on Twitter. I agree on everything he talks about, but in this case, I don't.
But what did we didn't hear the part where he went after NASCAR itself.
I'm going to play that right now. Let me just.
Furs by Dicker and Dicker of Beverly Hills. So the case itself, she wants a protective order. There are no charges yet, though the Delaware Attorney General's office is reviewing the evidence against him. And unfortunately, for the woman who calls herself Pocket Commando, there is an immediately after-the-fact witness who is going to be hard to contradict. As USA Today reported, Terry said Driscoll showed up crying at his motorhome on the night of the alleged assault and told him that Busch had grabbed her by the neck and pushed her against the wall. But he said Driscoll never told him, as she has testified and told Dover police, that Busch slammed her head into the wall 3 times. Terry said he and his wife did not notice any marks on Driscoll. I'm certain I didn't see anything, he said. Who's this Terry that the real-life version of Angelina Jolie and Mr. and Mrs. Smith sneaked her injuries past? He's Nick Terry, and Nick Terry is a NASCAR chaplain. Well, he says he is. I think I saw him in Constantinople once, just before Nigel was given the Angelic Night mouthwash by orthodontic cheek. Driscoll initially denied all of the, killing people stuff. Today she's gotten even more emphatic. Quote, Mr. Busch's statements in court serve to confirm my belief that he needs professional counseling to deal with his alcoholism and issues of depression. I have previously shared my concerns for Mr. Busch's mental state since the onset of this case, only to be dismissed by his legal team. Perhaps now his family and those around him recognize his fragile state and will provide him the mental health care and support he needs. He clearly believes fiction is reality, and that's all the more reason he needs help. So it's your classic he said, she said. He, allegedly a domestic abuser, cleverly using his victim's violence-based profession against her to destroy her credibility. She, allegedly an embittered ex-girlfriend trying to destroy him, figuratively or literally. Whatevs. Just your typical modern sports American romance. Ray Rice, Josh Lukey, Ray McDonald paired up with Anna Benson, Kim Kardashian, and Monte Teo's invisible girlfriend, the ninja, with commentary by Tanya Harding. And he says she comes home from the office in an evening gown splattered with blood and matter concealed by a trench coat. And that's the part I'm not believing. As Patricia Driscoll says, she's only 5 feet tall. Nobody 5 feet tall can carry off wearing a trench coat. It would look ridiculous. She'd look like one kid standing on another kid's shoulders. Oh, great. Now she's going to come after me for saying she's too short to wear a trench coat.
Okay, he'd also mocked Jeff Gordon's tricycle riding appearance at the Washington Wizards game to promote the 2015 Daytona 500. Fogtard said something. He goes, "We get it, Keith Olbermann. You're not a fan. That is your prerogative. For the benefit of all, spare us. Go away, thank you. And he responded, and you are who, sir? And that's about it.
Well, it's not surprising that Olbermann thinks that NASCAR is a joke, because he is a joke. I mean, he doesn't even know the first thing about NASCAR. He's just generalizing it the way he sees it, and he can't. He's just, when it comes to NASCAR, he doesn't know jack shit. With the whole Kurt Patricia thing, we already know about the whole thing. We everybody knows how we feel on it. But I personally think the bitch is full of it. I think she's just trying to destroy Kurt's reputation and his career, and while at the same time getting money out of him. And she's basically playing the boo-hoo, feel sorry for me card, and there's no evidence. Like, there's no evidence of her getting hit. There's no evidence of nothing. And waiting 2 months to talk to the cops about it, yeah, I smell bullshit. But back onto the Olbermann thing, he doesn't know fucking one thing about NASCAR. I was reading this article about Rusty Wallace giving him a bit of shit for saying that he doesn't know what NASCAR is talking about, blah, blah, blah. And I was reading it, and I'm like, this is the first time in a long time that I actually agree with what Rusty Wallace says. I mean, granted, Rusty Wallace is a shitty commentator, but as a driver, I mean, he's done so much for the sport. He's a champion. He's won a lot of races. He's respected in the sport. Yes, his commentating is just beyond garbage because of his these cats with ESPN. But in terms of this, Rusty has every right to criticize Olbermann, because basically Olbermann is just talking shit on something he doesn't understand, and he does. He's not a fan. It's obvious that he thinks NASCAR is stupid. That's fine, but you really shouldn't talk about it and back up facts. You don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. That's the thing with these NASCAR haters, other than Olbermann, who just like to say all it is just people going around in circles when it's all a bunch of bullshit. Number one, it's not circles, it's ovals, you fucking retard. Like, do you need to go back to 3rd grade and learn basic shapes or what? Second, the NASCAR haters really don't understand. They're like, oh, yeah, well, I've watched like 5 laps of a race. That doesn't count. If you don't like it, that's fine. I'm not criticizing anybody who doesn't like it, but people who are just going to go so far as to say NASCAR is stupid, NASCAR is retarded, NASCAR is boring. I'm like, okay, what do you watch? Oh, I watch football, I watch basketball. Ooh, I'm so enticed by football. Oh my god. But Olbermann just needs to shut his trap. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He needs to stick to something he does understand and leave the people who know about NASCAR talk about NASCAR, because when we have idiots like these roaming around talking about NASCAR sport, he obviously doesn't understand or has even the brain to comprehend what NASCAR is all about. Then he just needs to fuck off, plain and simple.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Olbermann is he has his liberal slant, and I'm not going to talk about my politics. I really don't feel like this is a NASCAR show. The point is this: I know what he's doing it for, mainly because he's been buried on ESPN News now. I mean, his show has gotten so low ratings that they buried him to ESPN News, which is like the death knell of any show. They used to have Sports Nation on ESPN2 when Beetle wasn't looking like a coked-up whore. Then she quit, went to Extra, came back, and overdid the fake Tanner. And now that show's completely unwatchable, and they put her on ESPN News, so nobody gets it, really. It's the same thing with this. His show is fine. He's not a bad guy. He knows sports in terms of ball sports. He doesn't really know anything about basically baseball, football. He was a good Sports Center anchor, back in the day with Dan Patrick. He did his time, but there's a reason why he's been fired by virtually every company he's worked for, some of them twice. In this case, I mean, when I've never felt compelled to agree with Krusty Wallace, but in this case I did. because he actually made sense. I find it interesting that it took them them stopping ESPN NASCAR coverage for him to actually make sense. If he had made any semblance of sense for all those years they were around, he might have actually been an okay announcer. But and Johnson, I mean, the point is Johnson's response is so weak. It's typical of his being a pussy. I mean, he's not that shows what that proved was he's not a great spokesman for the sport when he basically got dismissed by this guy. Tony goes after him, it'd be one thing if it's Jeffy, but Jeffy's riding around on a tricycle looking like an idiot because they don't have preseason testing or they don't have anything to do. So he's going and riding around on a freaking tricycle. So he looks like a freaking goofball. So of course you give him fodder to goof on. He doesn't think racing's a sport anyway, though he's never been athletic or ever been athletically inclined. So he has nowhere to talk, no reason to talk. Long story short, he's barked up the wrong tree. And when it comes to NASCAR, when it comes to some of these assholes like that fucking loser Golden Tate, a piece of shit wide receiver for the Lions when he used to be a shithawk, he talked crap about NASCAR and he got completely destroyed on Twitter to the point where he had to shut up and apologize. He's still an a-hole, and he's still not that great of a wide receiver. But he took it up the ass after he talked bad about the sport, and all these people who dismiss motorsports as not a sport are idiots. And so, I mean, Olbermann can have his feelings. He can go and dismiss. He can say whatever he wants. The Patricia Driscoll, Kurt Busch story is a match made in car wreck, white trash car wreck heaven. So it's not going to end well, and for Kurt Busch, it's not going to end really well either. He is whatever manhood he may have had, he's probably given that up. And we know Kyle gave his manhood up a long time ago, so the Busch brothers aren't working with any attachments anymore.
Okay, NASCAR has a new officiating system. NASCAR hopes to take the guesswork out of the pit road penalties and enhance its ability to make some pit road calls by using a new video-based officiating system 2015. This system, which utilizes 45 cameras perched in a 6-camera clusters on the grandstand side of a racetrack, will be used for all Spring Cup events and support races on a given weekend. NASCAR has scanned with a laser and measured all pit roads and put the information into a database that will allow it to initially make automated calls to alert officials of violations. The cameras will send video of live pit stop to a trailer that will house 8 officials. Each official will watch a different pit stop chosen randomly. The officials will look for equipment violations and violations such as too many men over the wall. The computer will typically identify vehicle or crew violations, such as if a car is pit outside the pit wall, with the monitors displaying potential violations of either red or brown. The official can rewind then rewind a video if needed to make the final call and radio any violations to the race control, which will be heard by fans and teams scanning the NASCAR channel. Once the pit stop has been ruled on, video of the next pit stop in queue will go to the first official available, with pit stops that have potential violations queued first. Who do you think they are? NSA? This is stupid.
Yeah, it's not. It's one of those things where it's just something that's going to be created for where they think it's a good reason, but it's just going to end not well. It's gonna make everything more difficult for people on pit road, not to mention confuse the fuck out of most fans. I mean, I was kind of confused reading that. I was like, huh? Like, what the fuck is this shit? I mean, okay, technology has come a long way in NASCAR since the inception of NASCAR, where there was no pit road speed till 1991. There was no electronic, scoring till the early 90s, 93, I think, around there. And now we have every NASCAR race televised, which it has been since '89. So yeah, NASCAR and technology has come a long way. Sure, that's all good and all, but this thing, it just seems like a waste of money, a waste of time, and it just doesn't really make sense. I mean, I get they're trying to spice up pit road and make it more interesting, but in retrospect, it's not going to be interesting. It's going to be confusing for most fans. It's going to be really hard for the people on pit road, the crew and everybody else. It's just not going to end well. Personally, I think it's a stupid idea. It's just another way for NASCAR to make money. It's not really going to make things better. It's just going to make things, I wouldn't say worse, but not better. It's kind of what the rule changes. The rule changes. They're not going to make NASCAR better either. In fact, I think they're going to make Cup less watchable because of the fact that they changed so many things. They've changed the horsepower. They've changed the put wheel spacers on all the cars now because of what happened at Homestead with Johnson's stupid ass. Then we have everything else going around it. I don't think 2015 is going to be a good year. I think it's going to be a boring year unless if guys like Gordon or Larson or Brad can come up there and somehow manage to win more races. Because if this seems like another year where assholes like Kyle and Johnson and Logano are going to dominate, so if that's the case, I'm not really going to pay much attention. But the pit road thing with this new technology, the 45 cameras, I just think it's just a waste of money and a waste of time. It's really not going to make NASCAR better. It's just going to make it more boring and less interesting.
My takeaway from this is it just gives more reason for those fat fucks to go and sit there and not do anything because they really don't do that great of a job most of the time. I guess it's the safety deal, and because the NFL and other leagues, now the baseball, which is already the slowest sport on earth other than cricket, but that's my national sport as an Indian guy, but the baseball's slow as hell, and then they do replays. It's fine that they want to do computerized replays. My issue is they're lazy. Probably can go and look at porn or some garbage like that, or they can go and start looking at their email, and they'll go and miss when Jimmy Johnson goes and does some nonsense on pit road and gets away with it, or that's what my issue with it is. How is it really going to be policed? And what's to say that you miss how efficient is it really going to be? And how likely are they going to make a call that could affect, that are going to affect the outcome of a race? And who it involves? Like, they'll probably, call Brad for a penalty that if Johnson commits, it won't be the same way. If Harvick, even though he's a champion, does something, but Gordon does it. That's the thing. It's the credibility, because there's such a lack of credibility with the sport. Putting it to computers and expecting 8 people to keep their undivided attention, I just don't buy it. It's not. I mean, fine, they want to waste money. I didn't know they had that kind of money in the first place, but to go and waste on crappy replay equipment, but they're going to go and do that, and we'll see what happens. I don't really have many hopes for the system. I'm sure that it's going to affect races negatively, and if that's the case, it's just going to blow up in their face, and I don't think they understand. They don't really care. That's one thing, but I don't think they understand what the credibility problem, how many problems they really have if the Pandora's box they're opening up by doing it this way.
Okay, Front Row Motorsports, they're expanding with another car this year. Cole Witt will be driving the number 35 Ford with Speed Stick for 10 races, including the Daytona 500. He'd be joined by Randy Cox. Good luck. You need it.
Honestly, I don't know if this is a good move, but in retrospect, I think it's better than racing for BK Racing, because really, what does BK Racing have to offer? Really nothing. I mean, the 83, they still have no idea who their driver's going to be in 2015, and the 83, after Baby Truex got booted out of the 83. J.J. Yaley took over the rest of the season. And then you have Alex Bowman, who surprisingly is still in the 23. I honestly thought he'd be gone after this season, but it's surprising that he's going to be in it. I think Cole, honestly, I think Colwitt's a good driver. He's definitely a better driver than most people give him credit for. If he was in better equipment, like if he was driving for Joe Gibbs or for Team Penske or for something like that, he'd do good. Maybe Ganassi, but no, he was stuck with BK Racing. Now he's stuck with Front Row Motorsports. I mean, FRR is getting better. I mean, RFM is getting better somewhat, but not really. They're still in the mid-pack. Of course, Reagan hasn't done shit the whole time he's been in there other than winning at Talladega. That's the only highlight that he has in the 34. Gilliland's just there. I mean, when he was in the A38, when it was still for the Yates team, he did decently well. Finished third at Sears Point in 2008. Pretty sure he could have had a chance to win if there had been more green-white checkers, but it was in 08 when they only had the one green-white checkered rule. And Gilman is also a better driver than most people give him credit for. He just got into a really shitty team with really shitty equipment. That's the thing that's keeping him from doing good and competing with guys like Larson and Brad and Logano and Gordon and all these other guys. I think this move will help Witt somewhat, but it might go to a point where it could be a start and park situation, and that would suck because Witt drove for Junior a couple years ago, did good, figured that he would have a chance to drive in a full-time campaign, but got shafted, and took him about another 2 to 3 years to find another Cup ride. So I hope this works well, but it might not. It might go to a start and park situation, but that's to be expected. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, with Colwitt, he's a talented driver, USAC kid as well. He drove midgets and sprints for a few years. He's one of Candy Cane's proteges. He got a raw deal as per usual when it comes to Earnhardt. He's one of the many guys that screws over these guys, basically leaves them hanging. That's probably why Eric Almirola bailed when he had a chance to go drive the 43 car, because he knew that if he stuck with that team, he was probably going to get hung out to dry. Brad, it's the same reason why he bailed, because Earnhardt, Roush, they're just two examples of people who hang out drivers out to dry. Same with Penske with Sam Hornish. In the Nation Xfinity Series is not a very viable product. Neither is a Truck Series. Neither is being in a back marker type team in Cup, because basically you're just going to be shifting over. He started last year with the Swan Racing. Brandon Davis ran out of money after like 2 months trying to run 2 Cup cars out of his pocket. And Parker Quinlan got unceremoniously booted, and now he's an announcer for NBC and trying to chase a dream driving Indy cars, of all things. I can remember, 5-6 years ago, he won 9 races in ARCA and was a Penske development driver. Now he's driving Indy cars. I don't know how the hell that happens, but I mean, Colwitt has a skill. He outperformed Cucamania, but for whatever that's worth. During that one season, I think he was a full-time driver. I think Eric Almirola was a full-time driver when Cucamania was driving. I'd probably have to check that, because I was doing research on that for another topic. But Witt can drive a stock car. I think he could do pretty well. Problem is, driving the Front Row Motorsports, you're driving the 2 also-ran types. Gilliland is solid yet unspectacular. Basically, the only time he gets on the news is when Cucamania tries to race him and wrecks himself. David Reagan had a terrible year last year after winning a race the previous year. Gilliland finished, I think, 5 or 6 spots ahead of him in points. So it was a really bad year for Reagan. He's a plate specialist, which is fine. MW55 made a career being that way and being an annoying fag. But in terms of David Reagan. He's only good for 4 weeks a year, and the rest of it he's just out there. He's a nice guy. You could say that. He's a nice guy, not really that good. He should probably be driving for Biaggi, Tedeschi in the Xfinity, driving that car and trying to do it full time. He'd probably be a competitor championship. And David Gilliland's basically holding out for his son because his son's a pretty good shoot, third generation driver, following the footsteps of his father and grandfather. And David Gilliland, for as good as he is as a driver, he's 100 times better as a crew chief and mechanic. So basically, he's just holding out for a few more years, make some money, cash some checks, and he's going to go and try to do the same deal like Joe Nemechek is doing, Ernie Irvin's doing with their sons, trying to get them in a better position to make it in the big leagues. But Colwyn, who knows what they'll do, because it's better than BK Racing. So whether it's a lateral move or not, it's better than BK Racing because they're so unstable and they're such a crap team that it's probably better for him. Will he miss races? It's a possibility because they don't have any points, but we'll see what happens.
Well, speaking of Pukemania, Phil, I heard that you got in an argument with somebody on Twitter about her. Can you tell the people what happened?
Well, yeah, there's this ass bandit. No pun, pardon the pun to the desert bandit, but there's this jackass Justin Tucker who calls himself a journalist for FrontStretch.com, and him and this Butch Dyke were going and talking about how it's Tony Gibson's fault that she did so bad this year, the last 2 years. And I saw it because I was following him and he had followed me. So I was like, all right, you're going to make this blanket statement. And so I went and responded, and I made some comments, and then because he didn't agree with what I said, he started calling me names. He called me an idiot, this, that, and the other thing. And then he, of course, unfollowed me because he's a bitch. And I'm trying to check. He's not even on the list anymore. So he might be working for that douchebag Mike Kalanoff now for a while now, because he hires bumblefucks like that. But so then this broad who's like an obsessed Pukemania fan went about when I was bringing up honest and obvious points, and that actually brings up a key thing. I have to just give me a second here. I went and did research on Pukemania because I had nothing to do at work today. There was no traffic because it was the first day of school, but I was doing research on Pukemania, and it was amazing to me. Basically, long story short, in IndyCar, she was okay at best. The one win she had, the quote-unquote win she had against the Hatfield, was the only podium she had all year in 2008. She had better years in other years, but she basically was just out there. She would basically just run and get a finish. She wasn't a factor. She couldn't lead laps. She never did anything of great value. Go and fast forward to her being in Nationwide and whatever, now Xfinity, same thing, generally mediocre. In NASCAR it's even worse to be mediocre because there's only 20-something cars in an IndyCar race. You're 43 cars in a Cup race, or 40 now in Nationwide, and her average finish was in the mid to low 20s. And this girl's excuses range from she had old cars from like 2012. She has a bad crew chief. Tony Gibson is a championship-winning car chief for Alan Kowicki and Jeff Gordon. So obviously the guy has some level of talent. And the thing they dismissed, this is where that asshole Tucker dismissed my comment, was when I said, so you discount the fact that Kurt Busch, the minute he had Pucomania's cars and his crew chief, was immediately competitive. The last 3 races, he was actually competitive. Though most of the year he had been absolute garbage, plus the fact he's going through all this other nonsense, as we talked about earlier. But, holy crap, he actually looked like Kurt Busch again. He actually looked like a guy who could drive, instead of a furniture mover. And then Pucomania with Knost, who I feel so bad for, because at the end of the day, he's a sacrificial lamb. Because every year, it's people like her and these people that are over-publicized. And that's really what after looking at all the stats, she's terrible, she's shitty. She doesn't beat anybody of value. She beats the guys that drive for BK Racing, beats the guys for Front Row Motorsports, who have no funding. She has a fully funded ride with one of the best teams in the sport. The team that won the Sprint Cup Championship. Oh yeah, that's another thing. They give Harvick everything. That was another excuse for her. Justin Tucker is supposed to be a credible, impartial journalist. And he's basically saying, oh, it's not Danica's fault at all. She has nothing to do with the fact that she's horrible. I mean, one of my close friends, Randy, we're both diehard fans of motorsports. And he's like, if you give her time, enough years, she might get to be about top 15. And I'm like, no. It doesn't matter how many years you give her. Best case scenario, even is like top 20, and that's reaching. She's not a top 20 driver. She qualifies in the mid-20s. I mean, she made a big gain in terms of starting position last year, but her finishing position was worse than the year before when she was a rookie. She basically stayed where she was as a rookie. This past year, she fell back 7-8 positions every single race. Any good driver would actually progress. And with some of the cars that she had, the 4 top 10s, I mean, whatever. We went over them when they happened. You know, the Kansas debacle when she got that 7th. They were talking about that. Like, that's some great thing. And basically because Kevin Harvick told her how to drive, because she drives like a pussy. Then there was Atlanta when half the field wrecked, when Paul Menard wrecked half the field, and she finished 6th and backed into that one. Basically, any track for Pucomania where she can drive wide open and doesn't have to actually do any driving is where she does well. Like Texas, Daytona, Talladega, Kansas, which is as long as it's a smooth track and you don't really have to drive properly, she can drive. Any track where it actually involves braking, you know, actually driving and having to make an adjustment, no, she sucks. And I mean, I wanted to do my due diligence because whatever, that lesbian went after me. No, nothing against lesbian, even though probably the only thing that lays her are probably her cats. But either way, I wanted to do my due diligence because I knew I was going to come on the show and say it. I mean, other than the fact she's a raging bitch and probably needs dick or plastic in the worst way. I mean, she's dead wrong. And the fact she can call me a hater all she wants and she called me every name in the book, hack of a rider, active, and I'm like, that's fine, that's great. And in the end, she gave me motivation because I really hadn't wanted to write, and I've set up some things, and that bitch, I can thank that C word eventually, because if it weren't for her, I wouldn't have gotten back on the horse to start looking at writing again. So for whatever it's worth, thanks to that, whatever the hell that bitch's name is, that C word who's a pukemaniac. That's going to be one of my new words for this year, new vocabulary that we can add to the NASCAST vernacular, is pukemaniacs, because that's really, they're so delusional, it's unbelievable. The amount of delusion that's going on with those people. They have no idea what a real race car driver is. If they think she's a race car driver. I'll show you a race car driver. Her name is Sarah Fisher. I'll show you another race car driver. Her name is Johanna Long. And then Courtney Force, Brittany Force. Any woman in the NHRA. Yeah, they go straight, but they're ballsy. They can drive a freaking car 300 something miles an hour, 190 miles an hour on a motorcycle. They actually win races. She couldn't sniff victory lane unless she blew the whole entire field. Fuck that bitch and fuck the fan too.
And you know what's funny about the whole Justin Tucker thing? I know that fucker because a couple years ago I was admin on another NASCAR page, and it was called everything. It was what was it called? It was NASCAR Worldwide, and I came up with the name, but it wasn't my page. Like I didn't come up with the page. It was a former friend of mine, and she's like, "Hey, you want to be an admin? Sure." And I don't know what we were talking about, and I made a joke like we were talking about the 3 returning to NASCAR. This was before Silver Spoons took over the 3 full time. And I said, you know what? I don't think, people can drive that 3, whatever, or something like that, but nobody should be allowed to drive it if their name's Jimmy Johnson, Joey Logano, Kyle Busch, blah, blah, blah. And then this Justin Tucker piece of shit, he went like, oh, well, and then he gave me the whole, oh, yeah, your drivers... How many championships does your driver have, blah, 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 and all that shit. And then he's like, well, why don't you just shut up because you know what you're talking about, like the little bitch you are. And I'm just like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's funny. That's funny coming from a typical Johnson fan. And what championship did you jump on the bandwagon on? 2010? 2009? Maybe 2013? I don't know. But in any event, Justin Tucker is a fucking idiot. He has no idea what he's talking about. And I didn't even know he was a rider or whatever the fuck he is for the front stretch or whatever.
He used to be. He's not listed there anymore.
Not surprising, because he's a
hack.
Yeah, exactly. He's a fucking douche. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And that's perfect, because that's perfect for where he belongs. He belongs doing nothing, because he's a fucking idiot. If he's going to criticize Phil for nothing, I mean, like, number one, the thing that I laughed about the whole thing when Phil was talking about it is it's Tony Gibson's fault Danica wasn't competitive. Huh? Okay, yeah. Let's take a look at her first 3 seasons in NASCAR, ranging from 2010 all the way to 2013. Did she suck? Yes, she did. She got the pole at Daytona? Yes, she did. You want to know why? It was fucking luck. She finished 8th. It was because of luck and because the draft package in 2013 was absolute shit. That's the only reason Danica finished 8th in Daytona, and the reason she finished 6th at Atlanta this year was because of that magical caution that Paul Menard made when he wrecked it almost half the fucking field. If Paul Menard didn't wreck half the fucking field, I guarantee you Danica would have finished typical 25th or wherever the fuck she usually finishes. But case in point, Justin Tucker's a fucking retard. I really hope he's listening to this, because he's a piece of shit. He needs to do something other than criticizing things he doesn't understand. And if he's a Danica fan, that's fine. You can be a Pucamini fan. I don't give a fuck. But if you're gonna do that shit, like if you're gonna get on my friend's case for no fucking reason, or if you're just gonna make bastardized claims and then justify it by, oh, it's Tony Gibson's fault. Oh, it's just, these dickheads, they can think what they want. But case in point, long story short, Justin Tucker is a grade A remedial retard who needs to, actually watch NASCAR, actually look at how Danica drives, and then come back and say she's a good driver. Because she's not. She never has been, and she never will be. So, yeah, Justin Tucker can go fuck right off.
Okay, okay, now that we got that out of the way, IndyCar and NASCAR presidents basically set for Rolex 24. These are the people that are going to be in it. IndyCar is Sebastian Bourdais, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Charlie Kimball, Sage Karam, Tony Kanaan, Scott Dixon, Jack Hawksworth, Martin Plowman, Ryan Briscoe, Simon Pigneau, Graham Rahal, thank you, Talented Bell, and James Davison. Now, the NASCAR part, it's only 3 or 4. AJ Allmendinger, Jake Murray, Kyle Larson, and maybe Max Pappas.
It is Max. Yeah, Max Pappas is in the race. I'll start here. The 4 NASCAR guy. I mean, basically, Max Pappas is the Dylan's lackey these days. It's embarrassing considering how great of a driver he was. I remember one of the first memories of the Rolex 24. You could find a video on YouTube. Just look the 1996 Rolex 24 at Daytona, the last hour, whatever, the last 2 or 3 videos of the Rolex 24. It's on YouTube. The drive that he did, he basically made his life in the United States, Max Papis. And he drove a Ferrari 333 SP like nobody's business. He basically set up speed limits in sports car races, because up to that point they didn't have speed limits on pit road in 1996 until he went 150 miles an hour through the Daytona pit road. And you know how Bubba Waltrip and Bumblefuck McReynolds talk about the transition and spinning out and all kinds of good golly shit while they're jerking each other off. He went 150 miles an hour, slowed down to nothing, and got a fuel and tire stop while he was still trying to contend to win the Rolex 24. That was the closest finish in history until they made these stupid Daytona prototypes. All 4 of the NASCAR guys are going to be in the prototype class. Larson's going to be in the 02 car with Jamie McMurray. And then AJ Allmendinger's driving with his buddy Michael Shank in a Honda. Orica Honda prototype, which is a cool car. It's a really cool looking car. It's a bronze paint scheme. You won't be able to miss it. And AJ, anytime he gets into a sports car, is just deadly. And Papis is driving the 31 car for Action Express Racing, which won the championship and the Rolex 24 last year. Bourdais, as Liz mentioned earlier, was one of the 3 drivers with the defending series champions, Christian Fittipaldi and Rojas. Good word, that's horrible, I feel. I have to apologize to the guy. But the defending champions at Action Express Racing. So the race should be good, hopefully. Hopefully it's not a Chevy benefit like it was last year. I have a bad feeling it kind of is going to be, but in terms of NASCAR participation, if you're not a fan of Chip Ganassi, you're not going to like that, but I'm definitely going to be rooting for AJ Allmendinger in the 60 car. And in terms of the IndyCar participation, a lot of the IndyCar guys are going to be in the show because they haven't raced since August of all. I mean, that's just insane. It shows how bad the IndyCar series is when they end at freaking August, and then you have to wait all the way till January to race again. But a lot of the big names outside of, like Helio Castroneves of the world, who doesn't really drive the race anyway. It's going to be a good show. I mean, it gets you out of the, and with what sounds like it's going to be snow on Saturday going into Sunday, it's probably going to be a good day to probably watch on Fix Sports 1 the finish of the race. Hopefully it's competitive. Hopefully the Ford cars, the Ganassi Fords and the non-Chevy prototypes have a chance. Figure the Corvettes win in GT Le Mans, and the GT Daytona class will be pretty competitive. The prototype challenge, which some of those IndyCar guys you mentioned will be in, that'll be a battle to be seen because it's basically survival of the fittest with those cars. So I always love the Rolex 24. Now it happens around the weekend of my birthday, so it's cool to see, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really been a big fan of the Rolex 24, but if it has guys like my boys, like Allmendinger and Larson and McMurray and Scott Dixon and Tony Kanaan and all those and Ryan Briscoe, I'm surprised Briscoe's in it. I was expecting like Will Power to somehow make an appearance, but that's just to be expected. I mean, I might watch it, I might not. But it's 24 hours, so I can just catch a couple hours of it and then watch the rest tomorrow. I just hope that it's a benefit of the guys who I root for in NASCAR or IndyCar that are in the show. James Davison, also cousin of Will Davison, well-known driver in the V8 Supercars, is going to be in it. And that's surprising because James was in the Indy 500 earlier in 2014. I forgot even who he drove for, but it was the first time Davison drove in the Indy 500. Maybe that'll show. Maybe will be in the Indy 500 or some big race one of these days. So hopefully the guys I root for do good, and it's not boring.
I think he drove for KV Racing, James Davis, and he got funding and drove for KV Racing, the Jimmy Vassar's team. And he's driving an Aston Martin. I think he's doing that full time this year. So for the Racers group. So it'll be the stories, because Fixed Sports won't do it justice. You'd probably better to listen to the radio, because Radio Le Mans is back, which is great. Instead of hacky NASCAR announcers calling the race, they'll actually have real sports car announcers calling the deal, and so that'll probably be better to listen to, and they'll have it online streaming too. So worst case, you don't want to listen to all the shitty Fox announcers, you go and put it online, and you don't have to. You can get in and out of the race, and they'll keep you updated. And with social media these days, it's not like back in the day where you're completely in the dark until 7 a.m. and like, oh, they have to update you. Now everybody knows what's going on, so it's not that big of a deal.
Okay, yesterday, Brad, Kurt Busch, and Allmendinger did conducted Vegas tire testing. They all said it was a great job. They all did great, and that was it.
Yeah, well, that's to be expected from a tire test. I mean, it sucks that's the only testing NASCAR can do now because of their bullshit testing ban. I mean, as I stated in one of the earlier shows, one of the best things I look forward to in the off season / preseason is testing. I've been looking forward to testing every year. 2013, yeah, testing. 2014, testing. And then I heard it was going to be banned. I'm like, the one thing that's actually fun in the off season, and they had to fucking ruin it. I mean, it's typical, I guess, because it's going to save people a lot of money, but realistically, it's going to hurt the teams more than they know. To not see testing at all, not even the tire test being televised, that just sucks. I'm going to Vegas in March, so it'll be cool to see what it'll be like in 2015. It'll be my third race at Vegas, and definitely better than going to ACS every year, because Vegas actually puts on some decent racing. California's just boring. It's a joke now. It sucks that it's my home track. If Riverside was still around, I didn't go there rather than go to ACS, but we all know that's not the case. Good on Brad for going. Same with Kenseth and everybody else that went. Just as long as the race in March isn't boring, I'm all for it.
Yeah, the tire test, they don't want to give, basically NASCAR, I figure, is withholding any major information, basically because they have a gag order on these guys these days. You don't want them to go and basically say the package sucks, but when you're talking about Brad, AJ Allmendinger, there's Kurt Busch, and then who was the other?
Matt Kenseth. So you think about Brad and Matt Kenseth, they're two of the best drivers on Saturday, usually. And Kurt is working with the crew chief only now for a couple of months. And AJ coming off a chase berth, he's trying to keep the momentum and possibly make the chase again. These tests, unfortunate. The point is, the tests actually help the product. Obviously, the product hasn't been great for a very long time. And bad year doesn't make a good tire. One of my posts on my Facebook page was an example of that. They can't go in a straight line without them coming apart. But in terms of these tests, like, there has to be real tangible evidence that you can pass, you can actually do some real racing. The takeaway is they lack horsepower, and because they have so much drag, they're going to be able to, they'll be dog slow on the straightaway, and they'll be fast in the corners, which I think is counterintuitive to the whole point of whatever these aero adjustments they try to make.
The point is, you make so that you have to back off in the corner. And whatever speed you're going, the point is it's basically you see the big man, and that's when you back off. That's what it should be. It should be hard to drive. They don't make the cars are. I mean, look, I'm no race car driver. I'll fully admit that. I'm just a passionate fan for most of my life. But I remember what it looked like when they actually had to drive race cars, and this isn't it. I know the tire brand manufacturer cannot make a good tire. They haven't made a good tire. They don't know how to make a tire that's competitive. That's why they moved out of every other motorsport and just stuck with. They only do exclusive tire deals because they're shitty. And Brad is just trying to maintain. If it was a nationwide car, constant. It was a Busch series. It was so much better back then. If it's anything like that, he's going to continue to do what he did last year, to the chagrin of everybody and most people who hate the guy. I'm a fan. We're all fans, so the fill up. I figure he'll have an uptick in performance, especially after this case goes away, and with the crew chief that actually has a clue. I think Gage Allmendinger, that's the one to look at. If whatever they took away from the test is interesting to see, because how much can they grow after a breakthrough year for that organization? Can they make another run at the chase? Can they win on an oval, for example, instead of Jess Watkins Glen and Sears Point? And then Kansas had a terrible last year, didn't even race. Somehow almost a Final Four. The way Newman backed into it, he needs to pick it up, and obviously his buddy Roy is there now. So, you want to talk about a somewhat dysfunctional unit. They're talking about Stuart Haas being dysfunctional. I'm pretty sure that Joe Gibbs is going to be more dysfunctional than that, but the coach is there, so he'll do milk and cookie sessions and all kinds of shit.
Okay, Brian Scott is in the news. He is going to try to be the fourth entry to the Daytona 500 under the RCR division.
Banner.
Yes. Yeah, he's going to be driving at number 29, which just confuses me. If Ty Dillon's going to drive the 33, and then Brian Scott is driving the 29, isn't he like the fifth Daytona entry for the RCR?
No, not really, because it'll be Menard, Scott, Newman, and then Dillon. That's 4 teams. The thing with you could run 5 cars, but it can't be for a full season. That's what happened after 2009 implemented that rule, and that was the case at Roush Fenway where they had 5 cars and they had to get rid of 1. They didn't keep 4, so of course they got rid of the first 26. So in this case, they could run 5 RCR can, but they're not going to. They're just going to run Menard, Scott, Newman, and then Silver Spoons Jr. So we'll just see how this works. The thing I'm wondering about the 29 deal is if they're going to have the same number font on the 29 as Harvick did, or if they'll change it up. It'll be cool to see the 29 back on track. And I like Ryan Scott. He's not a douche like Ty Dillon or his bullshit brother Austin. You can't win a Cup race or do good in the Cup to save his life. We'll see. It'll be cool to see Scott be in a Cup car because the last time he was in a Cup car at a restricted play track, which was I think Talladega. He won the pole, so maybe he'll do something. Maybe he'll Trevor Bayne type win in the Daytona 500. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean that's really what it's all about for Brian Scott to try to go and pull it out of the ass. And he can't win an Xfinity race, but if he could go and win the Daytona 500. Basically, it's a Hendrick Motorsports thing, as is everything which involves NASCAR. Why there isn't a 5-team rule or any no limit. He bitched and moaned when 5 Roush cars made the chase back in 2005. He both that the made it 4. At that point, Roush actually was viable in that sponsorship.
Had to get rid of the one car, the 26 car. In the end, it worked out for McMurray a lot better than it did for Roush, because now they've lost most of those sponsors. They're barely fielding 3 competitive cars, if that. You can say for 3. The way Richard Older sets around the 5-team rule is they only have 3 regular teams, and the 33 is in concert with Joe Falk, who owns the 40 car for Landon Castle, and the 33 car is a second car for that team. But when Childress calls and says he wants to run Ty or Austin or whoever the fuck, he goes and they make it an RCR car. So they get around the system that way, because they're running Ty in that car and they're running Brian Scott. It also, because it's a limited, because he's not earning points, and now with the rules with rookies, if you're not earning points for Cup anyways, it doesn't matter how many races you run. So that's why I'm surprised Chase Elliott isn't going to run the Daytona 500. I find that to be interesting, because Hendrick can get around the rule and run him in a 5th car. We're going to mention something about another driver who was a rookie last year, and they're might add a team. So the logic that they can't go and run Chase Elliott in the Daytona 500, I mean, run a tribute scheme to his dad who's going to the Hall of Fame or something, anyway. You know, he's a defending champ of the AAA series. You might as well give him some bonus for doing it. But he won't be able to. You'll probably be in the car later in the year running a 5th car, because same way Brad did when he was a part of the Hendrick group, because he wasn't earning points towards cars. So that's really how they did it. That's why there's 5 teams. It's skirting the system, but you wouldn't expect anything less from Pop-Up.
Okay, yeah, Fox Sports has this article, 7 drivers who could become first-time NASCAR Sprint Cup winners. Number 1 is Kyle Larson. A season after recording 8 top 5 finishes, including 3 runner-up results, on the way to becoming the Sprint Cup Series Rookie of the Year. Larson is expected to find victory lane for the first time in 2015. Any less would be a major disappointment.
Well, that's to be expected. Of course, Larson's going to find victory lane. I mean, most people think about the sophomore slump that most people get in, like the champions, like at Hart, like with Brad in 2013 when he won the championship and so on and so forth. But in this case, it's not. Larson, he'll find victory lane. We know he will. Just a matter of when and how. And I think it's definitely going to be sometime in 2015. It's not going to be a year from now. Larson, he proved that he can win the year. He also proved that he can run for races. He's also proved that he can run with the big stuff like Gordon, like Brad, like Candy Kane, like Matt Kansas, and all the guys who do Brad. He hit in his second a shit ton of times, and one was in a couple were to Logano. So honestly, Larson is the number. That's the one thing I put this article on so far. Even though it's a fixed sports article, and Larson can find victory lane, and I honestly think he will. It's just going to be a matter of when and how.
I figure Larson's year will be similar to the hero Jeff Gordon when he was in his second year. In 1994, Jeff Gordon finished in the top 10 in points, 8th in points, and he won 2 races. Of course, those 2 races were the Coke 600 and the inaugural Brickyard 400. Do I think he's going to win those exact races, finish 8th in points? No, I won't do. I figure he's going to win, which means he'll make the chase. Do I think he'll go a few rounds? Yet, because he was a 6th, in the end, based on regular points, he was a 6th. He finished 6th in points. Only Tony Stewart and Johnson have done better than that as a rookie. So while it shows he finished 17th, in truth he really should have finished 6th. I don't doubt, I have no doubt in my mind that Larson will win a cup race this year. It's just a case of how many and how well will he do in the chase, the way that they did last year. I figure it's bad news for everybody. I'm just curious, could you list all the 7 drivers?
Austin Dillon's second. He's not a chance in hell. Chase Elliott. I don't think he's going to make the Sprint Cup this year. Richard.
Oh, Richard!
Oh, Richard!
Yeah, not a chance in hell. Ryan Blaney. Sam Hornish Jr. Maybe. And Pukemania.
Oh my God! Well, should have figured it's a big sport article, so of course they had to type it. They had to put in Richard and Pukemania. Honestly, Silver Spoon's not going to win, not unless if it's a rained out race or if it's a few mileage race and somehow he magically wins. That's the only way he's going to win a race. Chase Elliott, that's a little far. I don't think he run races. He's not going to fucking win his first time out. Xfinity, that's one thing. Cup, that's another thing. And he hasn't even announced going. Win this Chase to win in his first couple starts, but if he does, that'll be awesome because I'm a Chase Elliott fan. Richard, not gonna happen. One, Richard, he's 3 full seasons. He's even lasted more than one season, and every single season he's in Cup, he just gets shittier and shittier. And half the time he's trying to get him, and he can't even make his way up. So Richard's not going to do nothing. He's just going to be a busier head in the big sports articles when they're talking about him and Pukemania. Ryan, I was talking about this earlier on in my predictions notes. I'd be on Facebook, and then I said, well, one of the things that I think could happen Daytona this year or Talladega or whatever, since Ryan Blaney's the 21 team, I figure he could pull out a Trevor Bayne and somehow win. Because Ryan Blaney, let's be honest, Ryan Blaney's one of the best drivers in NASCAR to date, and he's also one of the young guns, one of the drivers who's in part of NASCAR's next, like Chase Elliott, like Kyle Larson, like all these other guys who can race, who can win, and people know. And Ryan Blaney, yeah, he's going to Cup. Yeah, he's not running full-time, but he's running part-time. So, in retrospect, 21 could have a possible shot at getting back to victory lane. And if all goes well this year, maybe 2016 will be the return of the Wood Brothers full-time. And the last time that happened was 2005 with Ricky Rhodes. So maybe Ryan Blaney could do it. Sam Hornish, I love Hornish, but this might be a little out there. Sam, Hornish is a better driver than most people give him credit for. Thing is, he's just been shafted by Penske both times in the nationwide now Xfinity and in Cup. So he got shafted to Joe Gibbs, and that ran well, sort of. He got a win at Iowa, but that's about it. The rest of the time he was in the 54, he ran like shit. So maybe this might work. I don't know, but the thing is, with the road courses, Sam Hornish is no Marcus Ambrose. Let's just clear that up. Yeah, Sam Hornish can race. Yeah, he's a good driver. Yeah, he can be capable of getting a win, but when it comes to the road courses, in which the 9 team has been really strong, he ain't no Marcus Ambrose. So maybe a win could be relevant, but it might not, because some people say, oh, well, Ambrose just going to run like Marcus Ambrose did. And it's like, well, that's better than what he's been doing in Cup last years. I mean, it'll definitely be showcased better than his 3 seasons in Cup in the 77, so maybe it'll work out. And of course, Pukemania, that's not going to fucking happen. We all know that protein shake, whatever you want to call her, she ain't going to do shit. The only thing that she can't win is a contest. That's all she's good for. So that's just not going to win that today.
Yeah, I mean, basically they have to shoehorn her, Johnson, or somebody that's so douchey no matter what in every one of their terrible articles. If she wins a race, then I guess hell has frozen over. That would probably be what it means. I mean, we were having issues with global warming. Meaning that Palin saying that Russia's right outside her door is probably true if she actually wins the Cup race. And I'm not even saying. I mean, I should go and clarify it. Because plate racing is complete garbage. It's not racing. Anybody can win. The point is
where he could probably have a chance to win the July Daytona race. Eric Almirola went on rain out and has never really sniffed a top 5 other guys in the Cup Farm. I think he had 2 or 3 top 5 last year, but plate racing at Reagan, you can basically back into a win. So the logic that you can't win when that's one of the only things, any track where you can hold the throttle wide and you don't have to drive properly, you can. Richard's in a do or die situation. He needs to win to stay in Cup. Because if Chris Buescher, Bubba Wallace is right there behind him to go and take over. Ryan Blaney is not that far fetched, frankly. It sounds like when or run more races. Obviously, Penske has a vested interest in making sure Ryan Blaney runs more races. He's at Indy, all guys can go and drive the 22 instead of letting Ryan Blaney run the 22 win the championship. That makes no sense to me, but he's going to run the 21 at least 12 races. I'm looking to expand, get the 12 car. I'm kind of hoping he declares for Cup so that he can run enough races, 19 races, with races that Ryan Blaney will run will probably be better than the full season body of work that provide. I mean, Sam Hornish, he's great at Michigan. That's one of his best tracks. He's great at Pocono. He's started in that Pocono. Dual think race. Eric Almirola did last year. They need to have they don't have declared sponsor. I mean, yeah, they have Twisted Tea, but how many races are they really going to run? University basically said I'll run it out of his pocket to keep it competitive, so that'll be like $15 million check, but I don't think far for him. Is it going to be difficult? Yeah, absolutely. If there's going to be, and Chase is not even announced if he's going to come up, all like, so, and Dylan, I mean, we'll back for. I don't think Dylan. He'll probably be a factor for points back into the chase. He's winning the race because they don't really have the equipment to be competitive to win races in general.
Okay. You know, I was going to talk about this, but I decided against it. Fast Villain bought a $400,000 car at Barrett Jackson. Yeah, who cares? Really?
Yeah,
What? Hello?
Yeah, I said it's not really news.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, with him, he goes to freaking Barrett Jackson to buy these cars so he get tax write-offs because obviously he's so fond of paying taxes.
Okay. You guys have any news or? Do you have anything else? Or?
There's the Carl Edwards thing. We mentioned the Roy Rage thing about Tony.
Yeah. Apparently, I'm not going to play the video, but apparently he says the worst NASCAR driver based on fitness is like Tony Stewart. Like, whatever, dude.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like Carl Edwards. I've been somewhat of a Carl Edwards fan, but it doesn't really matter in this case because let's be honest here. Yes, Carl Edwards is a decent NASCAR driver, but does he have 3 Sprint Cup championships and over 48 wins, almost 50 wins? Yeah, I didn't think so. Nobody really cares if Tony Stewart's in shape or if people like Stewart just because of the character he is and what he does from the racetrack. No one really gave a fuck. The only people who gave a fuck is bad are the critics, the people, and his haters. Those are the only people who said, oh yeah, well, Tony Stewart's fat, blah, blah, blah. Who the fuck cares? No, his fans don't care. I'm one of his fans, and I don't give a shit if he's fat. I don't care if he's skinny, fat, in the middle, whatever. I'm the Stewart fan because I respect what he's done in NASCAR, what he's done for the sport, what he done. He's good. And Carl Edwards, yeah, besides the 2 near misses he had in the championship in 2011, really hasn't done much in club. Other than get the 20-something wins that he has in his career. He got 2 wins a year ago at 6 Point and Bristol, or not, whatever. But he really dissed Tony Stewart because Stewart has more than Edwards can offer himself. Let's just be honest there. And yeah, Edwards is a big to work out. And by most, I mean like the people like Johnson, people like Hamlin, all these other guys who, oh man, yeah, fitness, yeah, I don't fucking care about. I just care about drivers. Go with Stewart. I don't care if he works out. I don't care if he eats 3 Whoppers from Burger King in one sitting. I don't care. He's one of my favorite drivers. First, what he's done, 3 championships. He got all these wins. He's been in NASCAR for 16 years. So there's room you could get him. But because he's there to come out there and say, well, yeah, Stewart's getting a lot better since the Kevin Ward. Just who the fuck cares? That was late. Nobody goes and does performance in 2013 of his weight. Of course, what happened in 2014 is that he was still healing from his broken leg, then having to deal with the Kevin Ward Jr. situation just kind of had a negative effect on his driving season. So Carl Edwards, yeah, he made the chase, but did he do anything about it? Of course not. That's the thing with him. He always says, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to win this championship. That's what he said in the last 2 years. 2013, when he won a race, he said, I'm about to win this championship. No. And he said that when he won Series Point, or he won it, so we're about to win this championship. He didn't. So, Carl likes to kind of put a shoe on things sometimes, and this is one of them. So, Carl, yeah, you're cool to me. Some people don't like you. Some people are your diehard fans or whatever. But when it comes to criticizing a well-known NASCAR driver of his weight, you need to just fuck up.
Well, I just saw it because my buddy Randy posted it, and I went and shared it on my Facebook page, and I simply said, hilarious. Where's the 2011 title there, Roid Rage? I mean, that's basically all you have to say. And all these freaks, I mean, Jimmy Johnson can't, without that fruitcake Chad Canals telling him where to go, he got lost running. We have a guy who's bipolar. He's a person now. Bush brothers, we already know about all their crap, their problems. Roy is a new person now. I mean, yeah. Look, something to him. Tony has never been a fitness. The point is, Tony was a fitness freak when he had to drive an Indy car. Juan Pablo Montoya is another example. Juan Pablo Montoya got fat as hell when he got to drive a stock car because he didn't have to be all that fit to drive one. That fat bastard, Jimmy Spencer, somehow or another made a career, even though he's fucking shitty for like years, even though he weighed like 280 pounds. The point is, it's not the fitness regimen. The point is, it doesn't matter if you go and run miles or do this. It's about, can you drive a freaking race car when it matters and make the pass when it matters. Tony can do that. I'll take his record and the fact that he's not the most physically fit over Roid Rage any day. But at the end of the day, I know that I can rely on Tony when he's on, when his head's right, to win me a race. Roid Rage is going to fall apart like a little pussy. That's what he is. And that's why he's in the perfect team. 2 of his teammates are just like him. Those pencil neck geeks who drive and do just enough to kind of be there but don't do enough to actually close the deal. They're all chokers. So he joins a bunch of chokers. That's perfect. You call me when you have 2 championships and 48 wins. Then we can talk about fitness. You dumb fuck.
Okay. That's about it. So, yeah, we're the proud members of Geeks of the Industry Network. We have 9 shows. The flagship show, Geeks of the Industry. If you like movies, there's Geeks on Film. If you like music, they have there's sleeve notes. 3 wrestling shows, Mega Powers Radio, Wrestling with Smut, and Pro Wrestling Nation. If you like video games, Cartilage International, and just the podcast is just shoot the shit. It's Chatastrophe. We're facebook.com/groups/NASCAST 500 is our group page. If you want to go to the main page, facebook.com/groups/G of the I. Oh, Rooney. Hi. Anyway, our Twitter handle is at NASCAST 500. My Twitter handle is at Elizabeth Moxley. I'm not only not safe for work, but if you're a Tea Party Republican, I will defend my liberalism. Guys?
I'm on Facebook, usually, and I what you hear the rant on here is mostly what I rant about, along with other stuff that I deem boring, stupid, unethical, whatever, and then I just also post random shit. If you're into old NASCAR posts that I do or whatever, www.facebook.com/analyst. I'm also on Twitter at the Desert Bandit. I don't go on there much because I've never really been much of a Twitter person. That's never been my prerogative. But if you do want to follow me at the Desert Bandit, I'm on Instagram, NashBritish94. I post a somewhat decent amount on there, and it could range from NASCAR to whatever. But we'll just see how that goes, and that's about it.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Philip G. Mathew, and on Facebook, facebook.com/Philip G. Mathew. I talk about racing, talk about sports on there. My blog, Unfiltered, which is yet to really take off because I haven't wrote anything. I'm planning on doing so here in the next couple of days. www.wordpress.com/WordPress.philipgmatthew.com. Check it out. And just looking forward to the Rolex this weekend. And celebrating both Elizabeth and I have birthdays coming up. So next week's show, we're going to talk about when next week's show will be a little later than usual. But
yeah. You know, birthdays. All right.
Gotta celebrate them.
Yes. With that being said, for Phil and Matt, Adam, I'm Elizabeth. You guys have a nice day now.
Somewhere out in the back of your mind comes your real life and the life that you know. It seems like it was a creation of some of those same old things. It seemed to be the only thing left out in the light. She had trusted many, but been unfamiliar with almost everyone but you. Well, maybe I'm just thinking that the room's all on fire every time that you walk in the room. Well, there is magic all around you, if I do say so myself. I have known this much longer than I've known you. She had trusted me,